Some stories don't arrive with a headline, a press release, or a public declaration. They arrive in the smallest details. A pause that lasts half a second too long. A look that softens without permission. A moment where the world feels quieter because one person has entered it. And today, StarWatch Now is exploring a question fans keep circling back to. What is the great reason that makes people feel Wang Yibo has quietly, deliberately chosen Xiao Zhan in a way that goes deeper than a professional bond? To be clear, this video is not here to present rumours as facts. It is about patterns, human behaviour, and the way audiences interpret emotional subtext when two public figures share a history that still resonates. So let's unpack it, carefully, respectfully, and with a little bit of hope. This story does not hinge on a single sentence, a public declaration, or a neatly packaged revelation. The reveal people speak about is quieter than that, and perhaps that is why it feels more intimate. In an industry where emotion is often rehearsed and sincerity is frequently filtered through brand, image, and expectation, the absence of a confession becomes the point. Viewers are invited to look not for a headline but for a pattern. Small shifts in tone, presence, and attention that seem to arrive without calculation. Wang Yibo, in this narrative, is not framed as someone who offers easy access to his inner world. That restraint matters, because when a person who typically keeps everything controlled shows even a slight softening, audiences instinctively sense a difference. The story suggests that the change is not performative, not staged for applause, but something that happens when one particular person is nearby. And that is the core tension. There is no statement to confirm, yet the emotional suggestion remains persistent. What makes this reveal compelling is that it feels human. Many people recognize the idea that the most significant choices in life are not always announced. They are lived. A glance that lingers, a moment of calm that returns, an ease that appears in the presence of one person. These are not proof, but they are the raw material of how audiences interpret connection. The reveal is not a confession of love. It is the impression that someone has quietly decided where their emotional gravity belongs. The power of this kind of storytelling lies in its restraint. It does not offer fireworks. It offers fragments. And strangely, fragments can feel louder than certainty because they invite the viewer to participate. When the narrative focuses on pauses, eye contact, and subtle shifts in body language, it activates something deeper than curiosity. It activates recognition. People know from their own lives that the most meaningful feelings often appear in the smallest, least controlled moments. In this framework, small details matter because they seem unplanned. A deliberate statement can be managed, but an unconscious habit is harder to perform consistently. That is why audiences become fixated on micro moments. Who looks first? Who relaxes after contact? Whose expression changes when a name is mentioned? Who seems to return to themselves when a particular person enters the space? None of these signals are definitive, but the story is not asking viewers to treat them as evidence. It is asking them to feel the emotional possibility within them. There is also a second layer, the scarcity of softness. When someone is perceived as guarded or disciplined, warmth becomes rare, and rarity increases value. A brief smile can carry the emotional weight of a long speech, precisely because it is unusual. Viewers are drawn in by the contrast between public persona and private-looking behaviour. They are not simply watching celebrities. They are watching the tension between performance and authenticity. This is why the smallest things feel the loudest. They do not shout, but they echo. And once viewers start noticing echoes, it becomes difficult to unsee them. The story becomes less about spectacle and more about reading the quiet language of emotional truth. If there is one emotional center to this narrative, it is the idea of safety. Not physical protection, not public defense, not dramatic gestures, but the quiet safety of being understood without explanation. In a world that constantly demands clarity, performance, and emotional availability on command, safety becomes rare. It is not the excitement of romance that grips people here. It is the comfort of steadiness. The story frames Wang Yibo's life as one shaped by pressure, expectations, scrutiny, constant interpretation, and the burden of always being watched. In that atmosphere, even silence becomes complicated. People project meaning onto it, criticize it, dissect it. The narrative then introduces a contrast, the possibility of one person with whom silence does not need translating. One person around whom the body relaxes, the mind quietens, and the need to be on diminishes. This resonates because many viewers, quietly and personally, are longing for the same thing. The world is exhausting. Modern life rewards loudness, speed, and certainty. Emotional safety, by contrast, feels like a soft room with the door closed, a space where you can be tired, uncertain, even imperfect, without fear of being reduced to that moment. When fans describe the bond as mature, they are often describing this, the absence of demand. In this reading, giving your heart is not a grand offering. It is a gradual surrender of guardedness. It is choosing someone who does not require proof, who does not pull, who does not force. The great reason is not spectacle. It is relief. And relief, when it arrives after years of tension, can feel like the most convincing love story of all. The ring image in this kind of content is emotionally powerful, but its power is symbolic rather than factual. It is not presented as confirmation. It is presented as a shorthand for something audiences find deeply moving. Commitment that does not depend on public permission. In other words, the ring is less about an object and more about a decision. The narrative invites viewers to consider a version of devotion that is private, quiet, and consistent. It reframes commitment away from announcements and towards behaviour, staying present, remaining respectful, choosing care in the ordinary moments when nobody is applauding. In a celebrity context, this symbolism becomes even more charged, because public life can distort intimacy. When everything is watched, private becomes a luxury. Therefore, anything that feels protected or unspoken can appear more precious. Used carefully, the ring metaphor also allows the story to remain emotionally rich without making definitive claims. That balance matters for responsible storytelling. Rather than insisting on a literal interpretation, the metaphor invites a broader truth. Sometimes people give each other something more meaningful than a title. Sometimes the promise is simply, "I see you, and I am not leaving." Sometimes the promise is not ownership, but acknowledgement. This is why the symbol resonates. Many viewers are tired of love being treated as spectacle. They are drawn to the idea that real devotion can exist without a stage. The ring becomes a metaphor for emotional courage, the courage to care steadily in a world that rewards distance and irony. Even if the story never receives official validation, the symbol still does its work. It gives shape to an emotional longing that many people recognize in their own lives. It says, the deepest commitments are often the ones nobody can verify. The truth is, this story may never come with official confirmation. And that is exactly why it keeps living. Because it sits in that space where audiences can still believe in something gentle, something imperfect, but sincere. Sometimes the greatest reason cannot be summarized in one sentence. Sometimes it can only be felt. And if you've ever had one person who made the world feel lighter without needing to say much at all, then you already understand why this story stays with people. If you enjoyed this kind of calm, emotionally intelligent storytelling, where we explore the human meaning behind the moments, then please subscribe to StarWatch Now. It helps the channel grow, and it means you won't miss the next upload. Thank you for watching, for keeping the conversation respectful, and for bringing your own perspective to these stories. Until next time, take care of yourself and keep an eye out for the quiet moments. They often say the most.